One nuclear weapon.
President Buhari harps on post-COVID-19 recovery along with other world leaders at the 76th session of the UN General Assembly. Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, promises support to Nigeria in development of COVID-19 vaccines. Plus, concerns over prevalence of coup d'etat in Africa as Sudan foils latest coup attempt. These are the major highlights we have for you on the program this week. I am Ekene Ndulue. Welcome to Global Update. Let's begin in New York, venue of the 76th session of the UN General Assembly. President Muhammadu Buhari joined other world leaders stressing global recovery in a post-COVID-19 era, among other global issues, while addressing the UN General Assembly.
President Muhammadu Buhari, while speaking to global issues in line with the theme of the 76th United Nations General Assembly, expressed satisfaction with the synergy of nations in the fight against the deadly coronavirus pandemic and promised Nigeria's continued support on the various vaccination programs.
I would like to reiterate my call for a fairer and more equitable distribution of vaccines in all countries so that together we can fight and contain the pandemic. The rising wave of newer and more contagious strains makes this even more urgent. No country can afford the socio-economic implications of prolonged shutdown.
President Buhari's presentation also noted global food shortages exacerbated by activities of Boko Haram and made a commitment to ending terrorist threats while calling for urgent action in order to mitigate its effects.
Terrorism continues to dominate security discourse worldwide. In Nigeria, Boko Haram, terrorist group, though fragmented by internal strife and weakened by our defense forces, is still active and preying on soft targets. Nigeria will continue to work closely with United Nations counter-terrorism bodies and entities with a view to bringing this scourge to an end. Nigeria has spared no effort in addressing the challenges of terrorism posed by the activities of Boko Haram in northeast Nigeria, in the Lake Chad region, as well as banditry in the northwest and north central. Over the illicit trade, transfer, and circulation of small arms and light weapons. Their excessive accumulation and uncontrolled spread in many regions of the world are having devastating humanitarian and socio-economic consequences, especially on the continent of Africa. It is on this note that my delegation calls for the worldwide application of the Arms Trade Treaty to codify accountability in conventional arms trade, which is critical to the security of nations. This is in recognition of the need for a broad-based global partnership in the ongoing battle against transborder crimes, including terrorism and piracy. Nigeria is fully committed towards realization of a world free of nuclear weapons. We are therefore supportive of any diplomatic efforts in this direction. We hope that the upcoming Nuclear Prohibition Treaty Review Conference would lead to a successful outcome that will facilitate the nuclearization of the world. We will do our part to ensure such an outcome.
President Buhari also acknowledged the global impact of COVID-19 on finances, acknowledging the burden of debt on nations and calling for enhanced financial services to enable economic recovery in line with the Assembly's theme of recovering from COVID-19 and rebuilding sustainably.
The issue of debt, we have seen that developing countries have been faced with unsustainable debt burdens even before the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has increased the risk of a new wave of deepening debt where vital public financial resources are allocated to external debt servicing and payments at the expense of domestic health and financing for critical development needs. Therefore, there is an urgent need to consider expansion and extension of debt service suspension initiative to include all least developed countries and small island developing states facing fiscal and liquidity challenges.
At the margins of the 76th session of the UN General Assembly, the Nigerian president used the opportunity to explore bilateral relations, economic cooperation, as well as high-level engagement with other countries.
Nigeria and the Republic of Burundi have resolved to deepen and expand existing bilateral relations between the two countries in the greater interest of their people and economies. This came to light when President Buhari received in audience his Burundian counterpart, President Evariste Ndayishimiye, at the margins of the 76th United Nations General Assembly in New York. The Burundian leader said Burundi is looking for support from friendly nations towards exploiting the vast opportunities that abound, especially in agriculture, oil supply, and mining.
They were looking at cooperation with respect to, in particular, petroleum products, and for Nigerian assistance, technical assistance, and possibly also government-to-government sale of oil crude, and also Nigerian technical assistance in the area of agriculture and also certain industrial projects. It's a follow-up actually of discussions with previous Burundian governments.
Similarly, President Buhari engaged the Queen of the Netherlands on bilateral issues relating to unlocking development opportunities through financial inclusion.
It is about getting a large percentage of our country, not just in the urban areas, but throughout the country, to plug in to the digital highway, really, as it is, and so that all activities will be done digitally. Investors will then also come in, in the various sectors when you have this easier mode of transacting business, and that will also help the government in revenue, generation. So clearly, Mr. President can see the real value that this will add.
Staying with the UN General Assembly, the World Trade Organization, WTO, has promised to support Nigeria in its efforts at developing and manufacturing COVID-19 vaccines. Director General of the organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, made this known after an audience with President Muhammadu Buhari.
The fact that on the African continent, less than 4% of us have been vaccinated, whereas in the rich countries, close to 58% have been vaccinated, is not something that really is good for the world. Why? Because we have all these variants that are circulating. And if you don't vaccinate people, they'll just migrate from unvaccinated to the vaccinated. So what we're saying is, in order to solve this problem, we have to produce more vaccines, and then we have to distribute them equitably to parts of the world that don't have. And that's the narrative. At the WTO, what we're doing is actually working directly with the manufacturers. We're helping them monitor their supply chains, which are very complicated, to see what are the bottlenecks they have, what are the regulatory issues they face, how can we facilitate trade. In return, we're asking them to deconcentrate production on the African continent. We don't want to continue importing 99% of vaccines that we use. We're also looking at Nigeria. We're the largest country, and His Excellency Mr. President also wants to develop manufacturing. So we want to support that. We've been working with the Honorable Minister of Health to see what we can attract, the investment we can attract to Nigeria. You know, vaccines are like a public good. So they also need investment from the government to match part of what the private sector is doing. We need demand. Vaccine producers will not produce unless they know that the vaccines are going to be purchased. And so, you know, the fact if Nigeria can aggregate its demand, then that will help to persuade them to invest. And I think the Honorable Minister of Health is leading a task force of which I'm a member. The Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, is a member, Kia Adeshino, and Mohammed Pate. We're all trying to help from the outside to see how we can move things for investment.
Let's take a breather now and go for a short break. The program returns shortly.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
Welcome back. And if you've just tuned in, the program is Global Updates, where we bring you up to speed with events in the past week. After many years of stability in Africa, the continent has recently begun to witness a number of coups, from Mali to Guinea, and more recently in Sudan. The continent is beginning to see soldiers use force to take over the reign of power.
The recent botched coup in Sudan has once again brought to the fore the seeming prevalence of coups in Africa. In just over a year, the continent has experienced 3 successful coups, 2 in Mali and 1 more recently in Guinea, 2 unsuccessful coup attempts in Niger and Sudan, and an arbitrary military transfer of power in Chad following the assassination of its president. These power grabs threaten a reversal of the democratization process Africa has undergone in the past 2 decades and a return to the era of coups as a norm. The big question to ask is, why is Africa witnessing a resurgence of coups, and what must be done to entrench democratic culture and principle across the continent?
I think it's still early days to say it's a resurgence, but these are warning signs, that red alerts that if something like a symptom. So the root causes of the disease is what should be addressed. And what are they? It is about governance. The fact that the political class have, in the name of democracy, they are tinkering with the Constitution, violating the Constitution, tinkering with it, and then some using it to get, to obtain power or to cling to power. And so, and then there have been a lot of the results of elections in the past decade have been questionable, and accompanied by repression of opposition, abuse of human rights, and, increase in poverty, unemployment, and crime, insecurity. Then you add COVID-19 pandemic. So, but the coups are just reaction to what is happening. And before we get to that level where it becomes now a resurgence, or the appearance of coups, and then regression of democracy, I think something has to be done. And what is it? It is to make sure that the democratic roots, the principles are not abused or are not jettisoned, and the political class rule according to the law, according to the Constitution. And then the people, again, have a role to play here too, to elect those who will deliver, not to collect money as incentive to vote during election. Maybe after 4 years, they give you a bag of rice or bread or money. And then after that, you don't see anybody until another election. So the people must get it right, that what they are collecting during voting is really nothing. If actually the politicians are telling them that without them, they can, just like dispensing, like a child crying for lollipop, or, you just keep them quiet and then move on. That is not, the power belongs to the people. So they have to take that power by electing people who should deliver, and then demanding of those that have been elected accountability. The fact is about strengthening your institution. It is not, what we have in Africa is individuals and strong men, instead of strong institutions. Former President Obama mentioned it, and that is what it is. When you have by the way, what former Donald Trump tried to do in America was actually, they called it a coup, because the Congress, or the Capitol was attacked. But it took the resilience, it took the strength of the American democracy to withstand that, and then make sure that, Trump did not succeed. So it is not that there is no, attempts like that do not happen. But you now get to the position where the institutions will be able to withstand that. And that is what Africa should be aiming at, to have strong institutions, not strong men or women in power. By the way, the military has no business in government. They have not acquitted themselves creditably to show, because very soon, the same offenses that they have accused civilians of committing, they will go back to it. We have seen it all in most of the places. So let people play by the rules. Let the politicians, nobody wants coups, but the politicians should not also trample on the people's right to the point that the military will now leave their barracks to come and begin to think that they can govern. So it is a collective responsibility. No one arm of government can do it. The civil society must rise up, the media, the electorate, like I said, the voters. When you vote, make sure your vote is counted, and then don't vote because of stomach infrastructure or these other things. Those things don't last. You are mortgaging your future, the future of your generations yet unborn. That should not be the case. It is the corruption, the wickedness of political class that is leading, inviting the military. I think they should play their part, and the military should also stay in the barracks.
Thank you very much, Paul Ejime, International Affairs Analyst there, for your informed insights. Let's take a look at other stories that made headlines in the past week. Stay with us.
Coincidentally, Nigeria and China celebrate their Independence Day on October 1 every year. 50 years of bilateral ties between both countries witness major achievements in infrastructure, especially in railways, airports, roads and seaports. The Chinese government is optimistic that the next 5 decades will see stronger cooperation, especially with the proposal of the 5G Nigeria-China GDP strategy.
So I'm working hard with my colleague, with Nigeria colleague, that we are doing the strategy in covering political consonance, economic cooperation, and the military security collaboration, international coordination, and the people's communication. So I believe that through the goal setting, that we know where we are going, where we can cooperate to make a difference.
Come September 25 to October 2021, both countries will host the China-Nigeria Film Week to showcase Chinese and Nigerian movies on NTA Entertainment Channel on the Star Times platform. The aim is to share ideas and culture and also build trust between the two countries.
I really want to congratulate the Film Week. I do hope that Nigerian Chinese will love this film, and this is the beginning of the film cooperation.
Permit me to sincerely commend the cultural office of the Embassy of the People's Republic of China for always churning out programs from her repertoire of inexhaustible roadmap for the sustenance of these mutually inclusive and productive relations.
Representatives of both countries believe the next 50 years will bring the much-needed development in Nigeria.
Algeria buried Abdulaziz Bouteflika, the North African country's longest-serving president, at a cemetery for its independence heroes, but without the honors accorded to his predecessors. Bouteflika passed away aged 84 after a career which took him from being the world's youngest foreign minister to one of its oldest heads of state, but ended with a humbling fall from power. The veteran strongman had lived as a recluse since quitting office in April 2019, following weeks of street protests sparked by his bid to run for a 5th presidential term. His muted funeral, with no lying in state, and just 3 days of national mourning instead of 8, reflected a mixed legacy that left many Algerians indifferent to the ceremony. Bouteflika, who had first served as foreign minister in the mid-1960s, swept to the presidency in 1999 on a wave of popular support as his amnesty offer to Islamist militants helped bring an end to a decade-long civil war. But despite economic progress amid high oil prices in the early years of his rule, crude exporter Algeria later saw growing corruption and unemployment, which became key drivers of the Iraq pro-democracy movement, which eventually ousted him.
That's the much you can take on this edition of the program Global Updates. Continue to observe all safety protocols against COVID-19. I am Ekene Ndulue. Thanks for watching.